So one thing that's been coming up recently in just conversations and discussions is the idea that things are wrong in the world, that we need to fix them. And death is one example of that, where people feel like, why, no? But those examples are all around, whether that's political, whether that is social unrest, whether that is, animal abuse. And it's easy to get caught in this trap of thinking things are wrong, I need to fix them. But what happens when you do that is that you go and live in the problem. And a friend of mine earlier today, Jason, said that the solution to the problem has nothing to do with the problem. You don't stop suffering by fighting suffering. You stop suffering by spreading love, by being of service, of giving. That changes it in you. You feel different about it, and then it actually has impact on the world. And I think that within that I believe that the world is in flux. The world is shifting and constantly changing, and some of that is violent, some of that is horrific. I mean, we talk about these horrific things that humans do, and how could God allow this to happen? Now, when I hear things like that, I think of the tarantula wasp. The tarantula wasp, which, it's kind of a creepy looking bug, but let's dig deeper. The tarantula wasp finds a tarantula. Aha! Stings it, paralyzes it, drags it back to its lair. Oh. Then the tarantula wasp lays its eggs on the tarantula. Tarantula paralyzed, frozen, alive. The eggs hatch, and the baby wasps feed on the still living tarantula, until eventually they eat enough of him as he's alive that he dies. And the wasps thrive and grow up to be adult tarantula wasps and come through the cycle again. Now, can you imagine anything more horrific? And yet this is part of this natural balance, this cosmic wisdom of the way the universe all works together and keeps itself righted in the universe. So thinking that our human brains, with our decades or centuries of collective wisdom, can outfigure out the patterns, the balance of it all, is crazy. Thinking that the things that we think are wrong need to be fixed is crazy. I'm not saying you shouldn't do anything. I'm saying that what needs to happen is you need to strip away the external fears, judgments, and negative things, center in love, center in harmony, center in what feels right, get in line with what feels like you feel drawn to, and then you have no choice but to try to minimize suffering. You try to promote love, try to spread light. Not because you're trying to change the world, but because it is part of your natural instincts. In the same way that when you're hungry, you need to fill your belly with food. Your body will be hungry. Your psyche, your spirit will be hungry for elevating love, for giving, for being of service. And it is from that place, without attachment to the world being fixed or saving anyone, it is simply of trying to be a vessel of brightness, elevating yourself towards alignment, towards of service, towards a place of righteousness. Not that you define, but that just comes from your heart, comes from something larger than you, the surrender. That's how you become a part of this flow. But the world is in flux. It will always be in flux. Our role is simply to ride the current towards harmony. The world needs disharmony. The world needs stuff. Otherwise, there is no night, there is no day, there is no darkness, there is no light. You gotta have it all. You gotta have cycles. Otherwise, existence just becomes flatline, and there's no purpose to be even. There's nothing. So thank you for the chaos, and thank you for the opportunities to surrender into the flow that transforms chaos towards harmony. Always towards, never reaching the end. That's, I believe, what our role is. That's what I believe is the path of an agent of love, of an ambassador of the divine, is simply to get clear, be present, and follow, surrender. Jason earlier today said that surrender is an action. Because so much of our status quo world is about achieve, achieve, conquer, conquer, conquer. We've had this evolutionary training to become kind of winners, conquerors, competitive, and that makes sense. When there's limited resources and we're fighting for things, you want to win, but that doesn't hold true hardly ever for our culture. And so we need to actively fight that pressure to achieve this fake security, this Maslow distortion of our needs, and fight that towards surrendering to love, towards surrendering towards service, and actively pursue floating. Floating feels like it could be a passive term, but it's merely surrendering and being passive to the will of a higher something, energy, force, love, God. And then once that feels like that momentum feels right, then being very active in pursuing that. The thing is, though, when you're actively working in the direction of the current, it's like running on the people mover at the airport. You're like, whoa, I'm moving fast. This is easy. Woo, no, 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 whoa, whoa, whoa. And then everything seems to just go because you're not trying to make a plan work that you devised with your socialized, limited brain. You're surrendering to a plan and pattern that so outclasses you in its awareness. And it's something that you're not ever going to understand. You just kind of feel a sense of it when we're in our right, perfect, or ideal mindsets, spirit sets. And it's something, that's why it's a practice, a daily practice, because the voices of the culture are not telling you to do that. The voice of the culture is saying the opposite. They're saying, take control, make things happen, fight for your dreams, make all the money, get the promotion, make that perfect spouse yours, or whatever. It's like, then what happens? Then do I magically, that's suddenly what my heart wanted all along? Well, the danger is that whole mentality of get, then you'll be happy mimics that, do, and then you'll get heaven when you die. Heaven is right now. Heaven is in every moment that you can become awake to the fact that you are connected to it all and that your consciousness is a gift.